Should you buy the GoPro Hero 10 or the DJI Action 2? Today, we're gonna break down the differences between these two great action cameras. Hey, my name's Jake and I create content here to help solo creators on the go. Today, we're breaking down some of the differences between the Action 2 and the GoPro Hero 10. Both of these cameras are waterproof, but they take a pretty different approach to action cameras, one being an all-in-one and one being modular. So depending on your use case scenario, one of these cameras might work better for you than the other. This is not a paid or sponsored video. This is just my hands-on experience with the Action 2 and the GoPro Hero 10. The Action 2 came up with my friend Jevin, who came and spent a week with me up here in Alaska. When it comes to resolution, both of these cameras will shoot 4K up to 120 frames a second, which is fantastic. And they can both shoot slow motion up to 240 frames a second, which is extremely slow motion and really nice. But when it comes to just straight up resolution, the GoPro still wins out just slightly at 5.3K in 60 frames a second. So if you're going for absolute resolution, the GoPro 10 still wins out. But not many of us need to shoot in 5.3K, and honestly, I haven't seen that much of a difference between the 4K and the 5.3K in the GoPro, maybe just a tiny bit more detail, but it's not a huge difference. Now when it comes to photos, the GoPro does win pretty strongly because it can shoot up to 23 megapixel stills, where the Action can shoot up to 12 megapixel stills, and GoPro does have some nicer, better, in my opinion, photo modes that it can shoot. One thing that really stood out to me was how much wider and how many more options you had for the Action 2 in the field of view. Every time I was using the GoPro, the image was tighter and closed in, regardless of the settings I used, where the Action 2 has a much wider field of view. When it's stabilizing, and then if you go to the super wide view, it doesn't stabilize, but it gives you a massive 155-degree field of view. But in more of the normal fields of view where you're stabilizing, it still gives you a much wider field of view. So if you hand hold a lot, this is going to give you a lot more ability to capture a lot more shots. When it comes to colors, there are two different ways you can shoot. You can use the default out-of-camera colors, which is what most people do, but you can also, in both of these cameras, shoot in a flat or log style profile, which gives you a much flatter picture, a tiny bit more information to work with, but then you have to go and color grade it in post. So, both of these cameras will do that. They both grade about the same in my opinion, but we're gonna talk about the default straight out of camera colors because I think that's what most people will use. And in that regard, GoPro made a big upgrade this year with the Hero 10 in that they added a natural color profile, which gives you much more normal looking skin tones. It's not quite as saturated as the typical GoPro color profile. And you can use it as well in the regular GoPro color profile if you like that really saturated look, which a lot of people do, especially if you're outside on a bright sunny day. It does look really nice. When the original Action came out, I really loved it because it had really natural looking colors straight out of the camera. And the Action 2 continues that, but even improves upon the original Osmo Action's colors, and gives us some really nice looking, very well saturated, but still natural looking skin tones, colors in the sky, blues, greens, reds, all look really natural and look the closest to my eye as to what I saw. And the GoPro Hero 10, to my eyes, has a tiny bit of a magenta or purple shift, which is easy to correct for. But straight out of camera, I think the Action 2 wins for the most normal looking colors that match what I see with my eye. However, I think that GoPro still has the market when it comes to the overall image quality. Something GoPro has done for a long time is have great image quality, and I think they still are the leader in that, but that distance is getting a lot shorter. Now when it comes to low light, no action camera is going to give you spectacular low light performance because they all have relatively small sensors. But the Action 2 does sport a 1/1.7 size sensor, which is larger than most action cameras and larger than the GoPro. And it does make a difference when it comes to low light. As you can see here, the Action looks much better. Plus, the Action still maintains better stabilization in low light, whereas the GoPro starts to kind of freak out a little bit and make the image look worse and wobble around when it's trying to stabilize in low light. But the Action definitely has the cleaner low light image, in my opinion, than the GoPro does here. Now when it comes to stabilization, both of these cameras offer fantastic handheld stabilization, but there is a pretty big difference. The Action 2 comes with Rocksteady 2.0, which is a big improvement over the original Rocksteady that came with the original Osmo Action. And the GoPro Hero 10 offers Hyper Smooth 4.0, which is an improvement over 3.0. And the GoPro Hero 10 offers Hyper Smooth 3.0, which is a improvement over Hyper Smooth 2.0, but there is a big difference. And here, I think the Action 2 wins hands down over the GoPro 10 because it comes across with the most natural looking stabilization, regardless of how you're using it. Whether you're running down the beach or you're flying it with an FPV drone, the Rocksteady 2.0 performs really beautifully through all of these situations to give you very smooth, very steady footage. Now the GoPro Hero 10 can do a great job, especially when you put boost mode on, but you also crop in quite a bit on the image. And what I've noticed is in certain movements, especially like here when you're running or definitely on FPV, it tends to jerk the image around a bit and give you not as smooth results, whereas the Action 2 had no issues with any of these situations and gave us really natural smooth motion. So here, I've got to say the Action 2 wins hands down on the stabilization for handheld smoothing out shots and giving you a natural look straight out of camera. And one other way that the Action 2 straight out of camera works better than the GoPro Hero 10 is it will do 360-degree horizon leveling in camera if you're recording at 2.7K 16:9 or lower, which means you can spin the camera here like you see in 360 degrees and it will keep the horizon perfectly level. That's phenomenal. The GoPro Hero 10 can also do that, but you have to buy the wide lens mod. In the audio department, it really depends and it's a bit more complicated. The GoPro offers really good on-camera audio as a default. It handles wind okay. It's not the best, but it does handle wind pretty decently because it has several built-in microphones that will work to cancel out other noise and wind noise especially. When it comes to the Action 2, the built-in camera in the camera module works well, but it doesn't handle wind as well. However, as soon as you add the screen mod, it adds more microphones and does a much better job of getting rid of wind noise. Here you can hear some examples of each of the cameras and their onboard audio in a very windy situation. Wind running down the beach like Chariots of Fire style.
Yeah, don't put it.
We got to drop our backpacks
Too
first.
many ideas.
Wind running down the beach like Chariots of Fire style. We got to drop our backpacks
Too
first.
many ideas.
And then we come to size and weight. Here again is a place where the Action 2 wins pretty hands down. By itself, the camera module is 100 grams lighter than a GoPro Hero 10, so if you're doing things like putting this on the end of a selfie pole or mounting it on an FPV drone, you're gonna save a lot of weight with this camera module. Now, as soon as you add the other modules, it does get a little heavier, but it's still smaller and lighter than the GoPro Hero 10. When it comes to how you save your footage on the camera and also how you get your footage off the camera, this is where these two cameras have taken a very different approach. For the Action 2, when you have just the camera module, it features an internal storage of 32 gigabytes, but about 22 of that is usable because the OS, the operating system of the camera, needs some space on there too. So that'll give you maybe about 30 minutes of recording at 4K. But as soon as you add the external battery mod or the second screen mod, that allows you to add an SD card and be able to record directly to the SD card. And in a future firmware update, DJI is going to add the option to be able to plug the camera into one of those other mods, and it will automatically transfer all of the footage from the camera directly onto the SD card. I think really this one probably is a tie because it really comes down to your use case scenario and how you want to use the cameras. Battery life has always been a challenge for action cameras. The GoPro Hero 10 gets right around 50 to 60 minutes depending on how you're recording it. In my experience, that's been pretty much the case, 40 to 50 minutes depending on the temperatures that I'm running in and things like that. The Action 2 wins when you use the external screen or external battery mod because it adds up to 150 or 180 minutes. 150 is with the screen mod, 180 is with the battery mod. So that gives you a lot more recording time and a lot longer ability to go out and capture the shots you need. But if you're only using the camera by itself, it gives you about 30 minutes. Now the nice thing is, as soon as you plug in the battery mod or the second screen mod, then you immediately get the battery on the camera module is charging from those other batteries. So that's kind of a nice thing, depending on how you're gonna use the camera. As to which camera wins, this one's really more based on your use case scenario. The Action 2 definitely has the most amount of runtime when used with its other modules, but GoPro, you can just buy extra batteries and switch them out as you need. So it depends a lot on how you're gonna use your camera. Both of these cameras offer app control and both of them work pretty well. However, I've always found that the DJI Action 2, just like the Osmo Action, the original, the app connects really fast and connects every single time, where I still consistently have issues connecting the app on my GoPro Hero 10 to my phone, which is a late model phone. Now, when you get into the app, another one of my pet peeves has been that GoPro really limits what you can do with the app on your phone. You can't adjust shutter settings, you can't adjust white balance settings, you can't adjust some of those more fine-tuned controls. You have to do that on camera, where the Action 2 basically gives you every setting, everything you need to adjust anything on the camera that can be adjusted by you. You can adjust either on the camera or on the app, and I think the Action 2 wins pretty much hands down here. And finally, we come down to price. With action cameras starting to push $500, it gets to be a little tough, but here I think the Action 2 does win because you can get a $399 setup that will give you the camera, a battery mod, and some other accessories to be able to mount it. And I feel like the options you get straight out of the camera are a little bit better compared to the GoPro. Now, you can also buy the $519 package, which gives you the secondary screen, which you do get with the GoPro kind of built in, but you also get some other extras, and I still feel like you get more options and more ability to do things with the Action as it is in a camera as it comes. Where when it comes with the GoPro, you have the option to buy the $500 camera straight out, which is what I did, or you can buy it for $399. You get a couple of extras, but you have to subscribe to GoPro's yearly subscription, which gives you a little bit of coverage on the camera for $75 if any damage happens to it, and it also allows you to upload your footage to GoPro's cloud. I don't do any of those things, so I just bought the camera outright. Now, one thing I wasn't able to test was heating issues, overheating issues. GoPro Hero 10, when I first got it, did have a few issues. GoPro has since fixed some of that with a firmware update. The Action 2, I just wasn't able to test. It's also wintertime here in Alaska. I don't get a lot of overheating issues, so yeah. We'll see how that falls out as DJI continues to upgrade the firmware. If you want to see how other action cameras compare, click or tap there. I put together a short playlist. I'll see you in one of those videos. I'd also love to know what you think. Did I hit all the comparisons, or you have other questions about these two cameras? You can let me know in the comments below, or you can join my live stream Wednesday nights at 4 p.m. Alaska time, 8 p.m. Eastern. I'll see you again soon in the next video. Cheers.